Today we're breaking down the difference between a manager and a supervisor. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what each role is responsible for, who reports to whom, and which title actually comes with more authority. It's simpler than most people make it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Hi, I'm Jen, and I've been a development specialist for over 20 years. If you appreciate me making this type of content, let me know by gently tapping the like button. Let's dive into this. All right, first up, we've got the scope of the role, because this is where the whole thing starts. And I know what you're thinking. Scope of a role, that's where we're starting? But stick with me here, because this one detail explains almost every other difference on this list. A supervisor oversees people. A manager oversees the operation those people are a part of. That's the cleanest way to put it. Think of it like this. A supervisor is zoomed in on the team in front of them, the 5, 10, 15 folks doing the actual day-to-day work. A manager is zoomed out, looking at the department, the goals, the budget, and yes, even the supervisors themselves. So in a lot of companies, the supervisor reports to the manager. Let's take a call center as an example. A supervisor in a call center is going to take a look at each individual agent. How are they answering the calls? How are they handling the customers? Are they getting high satisfaction scores? Are they meeting the customer's needs? But the manager is going to take a look at the call center department as a whole and look at what are the stats, what are the call volume weights, what types of things are getting escalated up on a consistent basis. So they're going to look at the productivity of the call center, while the supervisor is really focused on the individual call center agents. The supervisor knows every single person's strengths and quirks. The manager knows the numbers of the whole group and what they had to hit. And both matter. They're just standing at different distances from the work. So if you only remember one thing from this whole video, remember that supervisors are close to the work and managers are close to the goals. Next is going to be the day-to-day work versus the big picture. And this flows right out of that first point. A supervisor's day is tactical. We're talking about schedules, shift coverage, who's out sick, is the work getting done correctly, is somebody stuck and needs help right now. They're solving the problems that show up in the next hour. Honestly, a great supervisor is basically a human problem radar. They catch the small stuff before it turns into the big stuff. On the other hand, a manager's day is strategic. They're thinking about the next month, the next quarter, sometimes the next year. Are we hitting our targets? Do we have enough people? Is this process even worth keeping? A manager spends a lot of time in planning, in meetings with other managers, and in reporting to upper leadership. And here's the part that people miss. Strategic doesn't mean more important, and tactical doesn't mean less important. A brilliant strategy means nothing if nobody executes it on the floor. And flawless execution means nothing if it's pointed at the wrong goal. The supervisor makes the day work. The manager makes sure the days are adding up to something important. And if you're finding this information useful so far, drop a comment below telling me whether you're more of a close to the work person or a close to the goals person. I'm honestly curious how this splits, and I read every comment. All right, the next one is hiring, firing, and discipline authority. And this is where the difference gets real, because now we're talking about actual power. A supervisor usually monitors and reports. If someone on the team is struggling, showing up late, or doing a great job, the supervisor is typically the first person to notice and the first person to document it. But here's the catch. In most companies, the supervisor recommends rather than decides. They flag the issue. They might handle a first conversation or a verbal warning. But the big calls, those tend to go up the ladder. A manager generally holds the actual decision-making authority. Hiring, firing, formal disciplinary action, promotions. That's the manager's territory in most organizations. The manager has the budget and the official sign-off to bring someone on or let someone go. And I just have to slide in here. Managers do not make these decisions alone. They have their HR partners there helping them every step of the way. Now, I want to be fair here because what I just said can vary a ton by company and industry. For example, some supervisors will have to do the hiring and firing. Again, with their HR partners there guiding them. Some may have to have those difficult conversations, whereas others may turn it over to the manager to have. So make sure you find out specifically what your company's processes and procedures require of you. In some places, a supervisor has more power than what we've described here, and in others, a manager actually has to run everything through their director. In general, the safe rule of thumb is the supervisor is the closest to the situation and the manager is closest to the final say. All right, number 4 on our list brings us to budgets and resources. And this one's pretty cut and dry. Supervisors typically don't control the money. They work within the resources they've been given. They might request more hours, more equipment, and extra hire, but they're making the business case for this, not actually writing the check. Managers usually own the budget. They decide how money gets allocated across the team, what gets bought, what gets cut, and how resources move around to hit those bigger goals we talked about earlier. So when you hear, "Let me check the budget," that is very often a manager sentence, not a supervisor sentence. If you want to see this in salary terms, the pay gap usually reflects exactly that level of responsibility. The bigger the budget that you're trusted with, the bigger the number next to your name tends to be. Now, I realize that some companies really don't want you knowing what each level makes, but let's be honest, people talk. Even if you don't know exact numbers, you have an idea. Okay, quick break here. If you want to go deeper on any of this, for example, comparison charts, role templates, the kind of stuff that's tough to fit into one video, let me know in the comments below, and I can add it to the resources that you'll find in the description and the pinned comment below. Okay, the next responsibility is performance reviews and goal setting. And this is a sneaky one because both roles are involved, just at different stages. A supervisor is usually the one gathering the day-to-day evidence. They see the actual performance up close, so they often provide the input, the notes, basically the "here's what this person did all quarter." In a lot of companies, the supervisor handles informal check-ins and coaching in the moment. A manager typically owns the formal review and the goal setting that comes with it. They're the ones signing off on the official evaluation, tying it to raises or promotions, and setting the targets the whole team will chase next. So the supervisor often feeds the manager the ground truth, and the manager turns that into the official record and the plan going forward. And if you've ever wondered why your review felt like it came from someone who barely watched you work, well, sometimes that's the gap. The person who saw you every day and the person who wrote the review weren't the same person. Something to keep in mind on both sides of that table. This is not an experience we want our employees to have. Now, this video would not be complete without the last one on the list, the chain of command, or simply who reports to whom. In a typical structure, it goes like this. The team reports to the supervisor reports to the manager, and the manager reports to upper leadership, which could be a director, VP, an owner, basically whoever sits at the top of that particular tree. So the supervisor is often described as frontline leadership and the manager as mid-level leadership. What this really means for you is about direction of communication. A supervisor spends most of their energy communicating downward and sideways to their team and their peers. A manager spends a big chunk of their energy communicating upward, translating what's happening on the floor into language that leadership cares about, and translating leadership's goals back down into something the team can actually do. Honestly, a manager is part translator, part diplomat, part air traffic controller. It's a different mental muscle than supervising. And by the way, if you're watching this because you're trying to figure out which path is right for you, drop a comment with where you are right now. New to leadership, stuck between two titles, eyeing a promotion? Based on the situations that you're currently dealing with, I might make a more detailed video for you. So let's bring this home. A supervisor is close to the work, running the day-to-day, watching the team, catching problems early, and recommending what should happen next. A manager is close to the goals, owning the strategy, the budget, the hiring and firing, the official reviews, while answering to the people above them. Neither one is the better job. They're two different sets of responsibilities that a healthy organization needs working together. If your supervisor and your manager are on the same page, the whole team feels it. And if they're not, well, the whole team feels that too. And if you'd like to know more about the leadership skills it takes to be successful, check out this next video.